This is the start of a series of lessons about algebra. But first, we need to talk about, or we need to learn how to evaluate expressions. A good question might be, what is an expression? Well, let's learn about what an expression is by comparing it to an equation. So underneath here, I'll put expressions, like for instance, 2x plus 3 is an expression, but 2x plus 3 equals 8 is an equation. 5x squared plus 2x plus 1 is an expression, but 5x squared plus 2x equals 1 is an equation. 4ab plus c is an expression, but 4ab plus c equals de is an equation. What do you notice about the difference between equations and expressions? Mainly, equations have an equal sign, and expressions don't have an equal sign. Equations have a solution. That is, they have a number that makes the equation true. For instance, let's take our equation that we had before. Two x plus 3 equals 8. What number for x will make this statement true? We can think, well, 2 times something plus 3 equals 8. Now let's see. 2 times 2 plus 3 equals 7. 2 times 3 plus 3 equals 9. We wanted 8, somewhere halfway in between. So 2 times 2.5 plus 3 equals 8. Is that true? 2 times 2.5 is 5. 5 plus 3 is 8. So then we would say that x equals 2.5, or say 2.5 is the solution of 2x plus 3 equals 8. Expressions, however, have many results or many solutions. And I can show this by using our expression 2x plus 3 with a number of different x values. Suppose I used 0, 1, 2, 5, -1, -2. Then in the first case, x is 0, so that's 2 times 0 plus 3, which is 3. In the second case, x is 1, 2 times 1 plus 3, which is 5. In the next case, x is 2, which would be set 4 plus 3, which is 7. In the next case, 5, or 2 times 5 plus 3, which is 13. The next case, -1. Now I'll be a little more careful here. 2 times -1 plus 3 equals 1. 2 times -2 plus 3 equals -1. So we see we've got a whole bunch of different values that this expression can be depending on what value we plug in for x. Now, to correctly evaluate an expression, we use a standard order of operations. Some people call this PEMDAS, which stands for parentheses, then exponents, then multiplication and division, then addition and subtraction. Our friends in Britain and Canada call this BIDMOS, which is the same thing, just a different word, brackets instead of parentheses, indices instead of exponents, then division, and then multiplication, then addition, then subtraction. It doesn't matter whether division and multiplication are exchanged and turned around. because they are on the same level of operation, so they happen on the same level, just left to right. Now, before we use PEMDAS to solve a problem or to evaluate an expression, let's write an expression here. What seems to be a fairly simple expression. And we'll see what happens to three people, Jim, Marie, and Zach. We'll see what happens to them when they decide to use their own method instead of the standard order of operations. Now, Jim always goes left to right. That's Jim's rule. So then when he has 5 plus 8 times the quantity 3 plus 1 squared, he first does 5 plus 8, which is 13. Then he does 3 plus 1, which is 4. And then he squares it. He's not sure exactly where to square it. So what he does is he goes, well, let's see, what should we do? 13 times 4, which is 52. And then he squares 52, which turns out to be 2,704, I believe. Now, Marie thinks there's something to do with multiplication. That has to happen first. She's not quite sure what to do with the squared, so she's going to distribute the 8 and then square it. So she ends up with 5 plus 24 plus 8, and then she's got to square this, so she'll square this. So she ends up with 5 plus 32 squared, which ends up to be 5 plus, let's see, 1,024, which is then 1,029. So that's Marie's answer. Now, Zach, on the other hand, is pretty sure that the parentheses needs to be done, but he also thinks the squaring needs to be done. So he's going to take the 5 plus 8 and then take the 3 and square it, and then add that to the 1 squared. So that leaves him with 5 plus 8 times 10, which would then be 85. So we get 3 completely different answers because they weren't sure exactly how the order of operations works and have a favorite way of doing it anyway. Now, up in this empty space, let's take that problem and actually and carefully use the order of operations. Order of operations says parentheses first, so that'd be 3 plus 1. So that leaves a 4, and then squared. Then it says exponents next. Since the squared is just outside of the 4, not outside of the 8 and the 4, there'd have to be another parenthesis here. So it only applies to the 4. So we have 5 plus 8 times 16. So then 5 plus and 8 times 16 is 128. 128 plus 5 is then 133. And there's the answer that we should get. Now you can always check these on the calculator. If you plug this in exactly as it is written with the parentheses, most of your calculators will do that problem. Now, take some time, stop the YouTube, and try this problem, which is pretty much the same problem, just different numbers. And then come back and check, and we'll do it and see what you get. Okay, and once again, using the PEMDAS, we start out with parentheses first. So we have 4 plus 7 times 3 squared. Then we do the exponent. So we have 4 plus 7 times 9. 7 times 9 is 63. 4 plus 63 is 67. And there's our answer that you should have got. Now, try this next problem. I think this will kind of challenge you. Okay, now this next problem, let's try this one. And suppose we have 3 squared plus 6, all divided by 2, plus another 8 times the quantity 4 plus 1. Okay, go ahead, stop, try it, and then come back and we'll check by working it together. And you can use your calculator if you want to. Go ahead. Now I look at the order of operations, and it says to do the parentheses first. Well, there's only one set of parentheses. So I have 8 times 4 plus 1. And then I'm going to have to do all of this. Or 3 and square it, then take 6, which is divided by 2. Or is it? You'll see there's a hidden parentheses right here. Right there is a hidden parentheses. Because whenever I have an expression that's just more complicated than a single number, and it appears as either a numerator or a denominator, that expression has to have a parentheses around it. So since this has a parentheses, it's all above the fraction line, then this is 9 plus 6, which is 15, and 15 is divided by 2, which is 7.5, plus 8 times 5 is 40, and my answer is then 47.5. How many of you instead got 52? Now, what happened if you got 52 is you probably used your calculator and you plugged in 3 squared plus 6 divided by 2 plus 8 times 4 plus 1. And your calculator did exactly as you said to do, divide 6 by 2. But the original problem says to divide 3 squared plus 6 by 2. So in order to make your calculator do the right thing, you have to include this parentheses right there. Now, try it. If you used your calculator and you forgot the parentheses, now put the parentheses in and do it. And you should also get 47.5. Try the following problems using your order of operations and notice that the answers are below. I think I did them right. See you later.